leaders accused of cover-ups.
The rap against John Paul in terms of the sex abuse scandals is basically that this stuff metastasized during his papacy, and he didn't respond adequately to it.
I put that to the Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal Donald Wuerl.
What do you say to those critics?
His ministry was so clearly a ministry of concern for everyone. Now, when you're presiding over a worldwide church with over 1 billion members, surely there are going to be things that happen over which you don't have a lot of control, or maybe no control.
Cardinal Wuerl and others say the measure of a saint is not the list of accomplishments or setbacks, but how holy the person was. John Allen says at this point, it's very likely that Pope Francis will approve the sainthood of John Paul II. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
The Syrian conflict has been described as a slow-motion civil war. The last 2 years have been marked by violence, death, and terrible injuries. But many Syrians are also suffering from psychological scars. This report looks at the plight of children who have been trapped and traumatized by the conflict.
As the onslaught in Syria continues, it's often the smallest ones, the country's children, who suffer the most. Many have been killed or maimed, many more displaced. Like these kids in Homs, where fighting is still intense. 8-year-old Bilal has not been to his home in about a year, he says. We were visiting some relatives because there was no electricity in our home. And while we were gone, there was shooting and bombing in our neighborhood, he says. We went home just to get our stuff and never came back. This Center for Education and Psychosocial Support is run by a local aid group and partly funded by UNICEF. Many of the children have not been to school since the conflict began more than 2 years ago. Here, they get lessons in English, Arabic, and sciences. And perhaps most importantly, the chance to play and be creative and try to forget some of the horrors they've witnessed.
Most of our volunteer teachers have trained how to deal with children, how to make them talk and talk and talk and forget everything that caused pain to them.
Homs was one of the first cities where rebels managed to hold territory at the beginning of Syria's civil war. But the government has taken back some of the neighborhoods after intense fighting. Most of the children come from areas in this town that were engulfed by violence as the two sides faced off. 8-year-old Isra says she wants to become a teacher. We're very happy here, she says. They're helping us by letting us study and learn. In many ways, the children who make it to centers like this one are the lucky ones. But the facilities are overcrowded as Syria and international relief groups struggle to cope with a rapidly increasing number of people in need of help. Fred Plykin, CNN, Homs, Syria.
And before we go, a reminder of our headlines once again. Scores of volunteers have harvested one of President Jammeh's cashew plantations located in the village of Kuntayar. The National Nutrition Agency has kick-started a 3-day capacity enhancement program for public health workers in a bid to promote health education and serve public interest. Early monsoon rains have swept furiously across much of northern India, leaving in its wake massive death and destruction. And gone but not forgotten, the late Pope John Paul II is inching ever closer to sainthood, 8 years after his death, as Catholics the world over celebrate his papacy. That brings us to the end of the news. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned and enjoy our range of interesting programs. Until then, I am Abokadabo.
Owe halo dimo aro joni obe kela na minister leti youth and sports on one and minister amen youth and sports honorable Aliou Jammeh K Jammeh,
His Excellency Kontona
wa musalmina His Excellency
anala delegation o
kanyme delegation mako
be governor contona of RRR anina jatiolu tomal be
musalmina governor e jatigi amen piungon be do
e karamuro dindingol contona mel bebe jang
musalmina sukabe e skulu jidi ko be ngoni do
e fondin kewol musukafudin ke mbe be contona
musalmina sukabe rewbe worbe kala wombe do minister modon wi o salmini on
fondin ke men nata janga diamuta fondin kewol toyala
o suka ardo darido hali e inde sukabe worbe e rewbe
ay dadiro ke His Excellency
o nyaagi His Excellency
pour His Excellency c'est mako la ministerium
nda His Excellency wallo de men sen ministerium
pour ka upgrade
ko be golla dum no be mbawta yaade
be dadiro ke la jandingo jabiro ke
o wi e mo nyaago doyo o jabude on haala
satandi kafo bela ko
o holla jama o taw
fondinke o e men fo ala kumoto
e o wi sukabe ko be kali fi mudum
atandi kafo la ko
o holli jama o
ye doko commencé ministerium oda e ma continue no
be fuddi ligge ministerium kono be holi dum humnude
ay His Excellency dani pour asema ko pour yodo ko continue no
o nyaagi His Excellency wala dumen no be wadda continue on ligge no gasarta
matandi la kafo la ko
o wi o holla jama o
komontala amma me fan
o wi bawo boyani
His Excellency yamarodi
His Excellency okki yamre
yamarodi Ministry of Youth and Sports la
o okki Kongol Ministry Sports and Culture
and the Ministry of Lands and Regional Government
aki Minister of Land
and Regional Government and the Ministry of Finance
Minister of Finance
pour nga hakilol kafunyoma
be jodo be becca hakkileji
mais satin nga LRR la ministre de mo makoy
ko watta ha LRR sen ministre mo no be mbawata dum gasude
ani CRR la ministerium
ak CRR ak sen ministerium
ani URR la ministerium
ak URR sen ministerium no be gasta dumen
be tembo men to ten sign
o joddo men goni do
His Excellency the President e kodo din tolle la belari
hey kede minister modom Aliou K Jammeh o wi president Jammeh okki dumen kali ha gasi fewndo do be goni do
pour ñu region sabol
e réunion jinaji tati
matandi lañu fondin ke wala ko
mo holla o suka gorko wa haaldo do youth leader o
tol nala honorable governor ñu ngalay region oto
kanko honorable governor region do
ngalla ministerium o ko kacala fon pare
be jewti fi ministerium on modom ha gasi fes kelle
LRR CRR URR
LRR CRR URR
indula sabol be
inno koji tati
be kodo di la regional governor sola
be ngokka kali regional governor ji
men satina ye project go men soto local government koto
project ko be hebi e ley local government
e ka fo project go men silip
project mo anda kan o be notata
silip sa yo kodo sa ka fu project ko fana na kodo la
on kalisi be beyda to project kalsi odo
yenyi ministère mo do
be golla di ministère mo jidi gondo do
ni ngala ke woto mela kotay
ministre Aliou K Jammeh wi si Allah jabi don boyata kelle
ni wo boraje
on si wi ton
me fondinke wol be tento la be jayela
mo salmina sukabe piu gorko e debbo
ba tandila la ko
mo holla on
aliye do ku kendo men dati
ligge mojo ko on puddi
aliye jika falingo men dati
on wecci jikkuji modon
ayentel sewo ba
kambe be beltike dum wonani dumen beltare
ayele xambe kuto men dati
o wi miijugol kesso ko on miiji
sal yamara ka aliye continue
o okkanon kongol
ndewe e miijugol moɗon on ɗi moƴƴi.